he would like all three of us to answer the question whether we trust Elon. And that was going on and on in my head. So I let you start. I know what I want to answer because I was thinking about it all morning, but go ahead. Do you trust Elon?
I'll take this one first. I got to say, for years and years now, I've been studying Tesla, all the reports. I've read, there's like 2 books out there on Elon Musk that I've read. Just seeing what this man has gone through, he's either the greatest actor on the planet or he's genuine. And there's no reason for me to like doubt what he has said, you know? So I do trust him, and I do think he acts with genuine intent. And it's just really fascinating to me. You compare him to the closest, you know, person is probably Jeff Bezos, who clearly is more of a New York Wall Street mind, who now, you know, left Amazon. He's got his super yachts. He's got how many mansions? What does Elon Musk do? He's the richest man in the world, and he sleeps in a, you know, 1,000-foot bungalow. And when he's not sleeping there, he's sleeping on the factory floor. Like, this man has devoted his entire life to the betterment of humanity via, you know, Tesla fixing Earth, creating a sustainable future, and SpaceX make us multiplanetary. Like, that's his life. Most people get, you know, $100 million, they go buy an island and they're gone, you know? So the fact that he is still this heavily involved, and no one has the work ethic to match him, I don't think. Yeah, I think that he's a genuine person.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. After watching enough interviews with Elon, going all the way back to the beginning, you know, 2003, 2004, you know, he is who he is. And, you know, he said it himself, you know, you don't have to read between the lines with him. You just have to read the lines, you know, and I think part of it, because of his autism, is he doesn't know how to do anything other than be direct. And so he is direct as he can be. We even see him in interviews, like he wants to share more, but he can't. Just like when he sold his shares last year, if the SEC allowed him, he would have just came out and flat out said, hey, I've got some sales of my stock coming up, just so you guys are aware. No other CEO on the planet is going to do that. You're going to find out through a Form 4 filing. That's exactly how you're going to find out. Elon wants to give us information. He wants to let us know what is going on. He's also human. He makes mistakes. You know, he's not perfect. So yes, I trust him, but he's still human. So you got to understand that the guy's going to make mistakes, and he's super high profile. So, you know, he's going to be under a lot more pressure, but I totally do trust him. I trust his vision. Some things obviously I question, but hey, you know, he's doing what he feels is the best for humanity and not just for himself.
And I think another, go ahead. I think another really interesting part, like another big criticism I see, is people, you know, say, oh, you know, this is vaporware. FSD is never going to come to fruition. This is never going to work. Well, they've been saying that if you go back to Tesla's inception, you know, EVs, it's never going to work. And since the beginning with these master plans and his interviews, he's been saying exactly what they're going to do and then proceeds to do that. So it may take a little longer. And so maybe they don't get to 20 million vehicles delivered by 2030, but by having that goal, they're going to get a lot further than the competition, who's saying by 2035, 50% of our vehicles are going to be electric. So I feel like, you know, we need to be patient. And obviously, he thinks everyone can work like him, you know, 24 hours a day. And the reality is there's hurdles, unexpected things come up. FSD, this is probably the most revolutionary technology that the human race has yet to come up with. I mean, real world artificial intelligence is what they're trying to solve. There's going to be hurdles on the way. You know, like he said, there's been so many false dawns where they're so close. And I'm sure there's going to be like these freak scenarios that just, it's going to take time. But having said that, the fact that it's not just some pie in the sky idea of like, oh yeah, we're going to have full self-driving cars 2030. The fact that we're watching it in real time clearly drastically improve with each update, you know, that's what really gives me the hope that, like, you know, they're getting there, and it's just a matter of time. And who's to say? It could take 10 years, it could take 5 years. I mean, there's really no way to know. And even, you know, you look at SpaceX, the fact that to date they've been doing reusable rockets for what, a decade now? No one else with government funding, the biggest companies in the world, has been able to make their own reusable rockets. Like, what does that tell you? And you're going to doubt this man and this company who's already achieved all of this stuff that governments couldn't get done. You know, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Tesla.
Yeah, one of the pushbacks that I get a lot too is everybody's like, you know, Elon's doing it for himself. You know, he's got all the wealth in the world and this and that. And I go, well, hold on a second. Like, how many other millionaires has he created along the way? How many other people has he helped along the way? Why can't both people win in this scenario? And truly, that's what it comes down to, is there's a lot of people who just believed in him and they also won. It's not like it's Elon's going to win and everybody else is going to lose. Like, everybody is winning. Everybody who has supported him has won along the way. So it's not like, you know, he's kick people to the curb.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with the two of you. My limit is that I can't see as far as him. I completely trust him with Tesla, and my money is in it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, will it be 20 million cars in 2030 or 2034? I don't even care, right? We'll get there. Maybe actually earlier, probably, but then we all think so. One thing I can't phantom, but that's just because I'm limited and I'm not giving him grief for it, is us going to Mars. That is just, I can't. I mean, good that he has the vision and that he pushes stuff that I can't imagine, but that doesn't shake my trust in him, right? I just think, my gosh, he's just so much further ahead. He's just so much more, believing in the capacities that we will develop to make it happen. So that's good.
Yeah, that's actually something that Dr. Jack and I had discussed as well, is the fact that, so many people who are bears or Tesla Q, the human mind cannot fathom, exponential growth. They can't fathom a lot of things. Like, some people just can't fathom, hey, we're going to go to Mars. Like, that's just not something your brain can comprehend. And so, then it comes down to faith. And it's like, hey, do you believe that he's actually going to do this? He's shown that they've done things before that have never been done before, reusable rockets, things like that. So do you have faith that he's going to be able to take us that far, or humanity in general is going to get that far? And a lot of people need to see, when you talk about, Wall Street analysts are like, all right, I can't see past 2025, let alone
I can't see past next quarter.
2035.
Exactly. They look last year.
Yeah. So everybody's just thinking, linear growth and not exponential growth. And it's just hard for the human mind to comprehend that. And if every once in a while you can catch a glimpse of it, you're like, I can see a little piece of that. And that's where you get the faith. And then you can see that Elon has come along. Look at, back in 2013, he basically projected all of the production that they were going to do for the next 10 years. And he was spot on with all of it. The man's brain knows numbers like nobody else. And so when you're looking at numbers, he knows how to get there. He looks out 20 years and then just plays it backwards. And it's like my dad explains it when he plays golf. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to go to the hole. My ball's in the hole. What do I need to do? And I play the hole backwards to where I'm starting. That's all Elon is doing when it comes to everything else. He's playing the whole entire thing backwards. He's like, I need to be in the hole. And what do I need to do to get there? And so that's when we get to lithium. And that's why we're getting to this bottleneck. And so we've got the lithium bottleneck going on. And, he said it before, hey, what are the bottlenecks? So that he's played this whole backwards and he sees, hey, we're going to get stuck here. Here's our next trap. Our trap is going to be lithium. So if nobody else is going to step up to the plate and start doing this, we're going to do it ourselves. And then you start looking at, like the chip supply shortage that we had. Guess who went through that and didn't have any issues? Tesla, because they figured out how to do it. They saw that issue and they resolved it. So now Tesla and Elon are seeing the lithium bottleneck coming up, and they're solving it now before we even get there. And actually one of my subscribers had mentioned there was an article that was put out today over in the UK discussing how there's a lot of mining companies right now who are intentionally not mining more to keep the prices high. And that's probably another reason why Tesla is getting into this, is because they know that they're not going to get the supply that they need because they're intentionally not doing it. And I think in this case, what's going to end up happening is it's going to end up keeping, because of all the corruption we've already talked about, I'm sure Legacy Auto has a piece and a role to play in this, is saying, hey, we don't have production as fast as Tesla is. If you can slow down the production of this to keep Tesla's production down, that'll help us out. And Tesla wants nothing to do with that game. So they're going to go out there and be like, well, you guys go play your own game with not having enough supplies. We'll supply ourselves. Thanks. So another reason, going back to the trust in Elon. Yeah, I think he knows what he's doing. He's got the whole game plan set. I think he has a lot of cards in his back pocket that we don't know about.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to, I think it is fair to express skepticism on the whole Mars thing. Like, it's hard to even fathom how is this going to play out. But at the same time, this man, Elon, is like single-handedly has built the Mars colonization stack, right? He's kind of getting us all the pieces we need. Obviously, the rockets were the first part. I think this is really the end game for the Tesla bot, and where that will really be, crucial, because obviously, ideally, if we could send a bunch of robots up there that just, they just got to charge, they go to sleep and they charge, they don't need oxygen, can build, living quarters on Mars, would be really ideal. You look at the Cybertruck, that thing looks like it's already a Mars rover, like it's ready to go, and even just, we look back at the rockets now that SpaceX, we can now send our own astronauts to space, to the space station. And for the last decade or more, since the space shuttles retired, what have we been doing? We've been paying Russia $100 million per seat to send our own astronauts to space. Now, is that something Russia's probably going to want to be doing these days? Probably not. Should we be relying on Russia in the first place? No. And so that's just yet another example. You think about all the astronauts we're sending up now. He's saving us $100 million in taxpayer money with every astronaut they're sending up. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, and then
and not sure the White House is sending a thank you card.
Oh yeah, I know.
Wouldn't hold your breath on that one. Yeah.
Well, that's because they want our taxpayer dollars for whatever they want for their own personal use.
Exactly.
And then thinking about, Starship going to Mars, full well that's going to have its own version of FSD. So it's not like you need a crew of humans to be able to get to there, so you just do what you need to.
But don't you sometimes feel that in all this, and again, all my admiration, don't want to downplay any of that, but in all that, the considerations of the retail investor are not so much taken into account? Sometimes I just feel when I hear people ask me, do we trust Elon? I trust Elon completely on the product map and on his vision and all that. There's no doubt about it. But sometimes I have my little grain of salt, and it's only small. I don't want to overplay this with, couple of bizarre tweets or couple of cold shower moments where you just feel like, why is he doing that? Doesn't he understand, there are retail investors back here. There are people whose pension, they're retirees in their 60s, 70s, whose pension depend now on Tesla stock. And that's like I said, it's not even a beef, it's a grain of salt. But sometimes I just think that aspect, and it may be because he's just, so way out there in the spectrum and the genius he is, but that the retail investor gets a little bit lost in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a very fair point. And I think that is a big problem, and why people have this negative perception of both him and Tesla, because this is the first time in history. This is where Twitter, for worse, you have this instant access to this audience of 100 million people. Whatever thoughts you're having, he's just sending out there, and then obviously gets sensationalized by the media. But I feel like not defending it. Like, yes, there's things he says, and I'm just like, what, why? But like, I feel like if we think back and like, if Da Vinci had access to Twitter, if Einstein, if Nikola Tesla had access to Twitter, they'd be tweeting some wacky stuff. And it's just part of what you get with the genius. And like, yes, that is a fault, and, not to defend it. And like, he pushes it sometimes. And I feel like that's just like, it just comes with the territory. And yes, it's unfortunate. Sure. And that's why I think long run, it probably would be ideal to have a CEO who would play the game and let Elon just focus on, like you said, product development. He'll still, be, company vision, doing it all like behind the scenes, but maybe have someone on the calls who just tells Wall Street what they want to hear. Maybe that's the long-term game. I mean, I feel like the day probably will come where he steps down as CEO, and I'm sure he'll still, remain heavily involved with the company and focus on what he loves doing. He's said so many times, he's an engineer. He doesn't want to do all this like nitty gritty, day-to-day stuff.
And I say all that not at all because I want to devalue Elon. Far from me. He is the hero of my life. But because I also want to prepare people, if he ever wants to step back half a step or just concentrate more, that's actually probably the best thing to do. Don't be disappointed. Don't feel like, my gosh, he lets us down. It may actually be good. We have, for retail investors, for Wall Street, for this whole game of the game, somebody a little bit less passionate about it, just because that's how it works. I mean, is it important? Probably not. It's much more important we have an Elon in this company than anybody else. But I do believe we could do sometimes with a little bit less noise.
Yeah, and I know that was something that you guys have brought up on Farzad's talk with you guys, was just that is, what keeps you up at night? What concerns you, and, Elon not being there. And I think it's actually a good thing. Like if, I don't know if it's Zach Kirkhorn steps up or somebody else, comes in to fill that role. If we have somebody who we know is going to fill that role, and then Elon can just Elon. And I think that would be better. I think if he's not being held back by the CEO duties.
Which he does for SpaceX, right? For SpaceX, he's not the CEO. So that it works. He has the example. And I mean, I do understand Tesla is bigger, but I mean, space is as important, if not technologically even more complex. So it works for SpaceX. Why shouldn't it work for Tesla?
Exactly. And I think, and I don't know when it'll happen, but I would imagine, I'm hoping by 2025, I'm thinking when my thoughts were, once FSD gets solved and robotaxis really hit the road, then he can step away, let somebody else take the CEO duties, and then he can really focus on AI and Optimus and really driving that next step. Because at that point, too, SpaceX is really going to start getting themselves to, hey, we're going to start getting to Mars. He's probably going to want to focus more on SpaceX. So I would hope that sometime around middle of the decade, they'll find somebody else and really build that team, similar to how Apple had it when Steve Jobs was passing away.
Yeah.
Having that team be able to come in is big.